Hello, sports fans. Jim Coyle with Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Thank you for stopping by our YouTube channel. Make sure to hit the subscribe and notifications toggle so you never miss a thing. All of our content up here every day. Looking forward to it. Thank you, and we'll see you on the radio.
Welcome to Indiana Sports Beat Radio, brought to you by the Hard Truth Distilling Company in Brown County, Indiana.
So for the thousands in attendance and the millions watching around the world, it's time!
3 on the way. Oh! It went in! It went in! And Indiana wins the ball game!
Know your role and shut your mouth, you jabroni!
Float game for the win! Ayla's gone. Come on, touchdown, Indy! Woo! IU! America! They got a football team now!
It's pretty simple. I win. Google me.
You know that I'm the cream of the crop!
Now, from the Hard Truth Studios, here's Jim Coyle.
Welcome back to the Hard Truth Distilling Company Studios, and the hard truth is we got K-Bro today. What's up, my friend?
How are you there, Jim? Happy post-St. Patrick's Day to you. And,
I'm glad you brought that up because yesterday it slipped my mind during the show. Nobody mentioned it. Not a single person commenter said a word about St. Patrick's Day. And I thought about it last night. I couldn't believe it. I'm James Patrick Coyle. I'm Irish, and that one slipped by somehow. But
yeah, Kevin is a good Irish name too, and got my corned beef and cabbage last night. But I think too, all the Selection Sunday, Monday reaction talk, and for you, obviously the end of the season. How did North Carolina get in the tournament? By the way, what a
dude, we spent 40 minutes with Mike DeCourcy talking about that, and Mike has never said a bad word about anybody, and he didn't here, but he was pretty clear that North Carolina did not belong in the tournament, which we all know, but he is a well-respected bracket analyst, and he pointed out that like 200 and so many had West Virginia in, and then right behind that was Indiana, Texas, Xavier, UNC, all behind those teams. I don't know. There's always discussion. I get that. I don't have a problem with that. North Carolina was obviously a screw job, and there are reports that Bubba Cunningham has a bonus tied to North Carolina making the NCAA tournament. If that turns out to be true, they're going to have to enact some rules for committee members. I don't think ADs belong on the committee personally. There's no way that you're not going to have an AD who is not influenced to boost his own team if possible. So get him the hell off.
Yeah. And was it the Wisconsin AD? Wisconsin was a 3 seed, and their AD was on it. And Memphis's AD.
But Wisconsin deserves to be a 3 seed, I think.
It's Michigan got a 5, right? And Wisconsin got a 3.
They got screwed. Michigan got screwed. Can you ever imagine a Big Ten tournament winner being a 5 seed?
Yeah. I mean, I do think too, obviously, and we've seen this a lot with the committee too. It's hard, especially when the Big Ten tournament finishes on a Sunday, and so does the SEC, that it's hard to move things around at the end. And I think, maybe that happened with Michigan. And heck, it happened with Florida because, truth be told, they were the 4th number 1 seed based on how they performed in the SEC tournament. They should have probably been ahead of at least Houston, maybe Auburn. Maybe they should have been number 2 overall. But instead they got stuck. They're going to go to San Francisco as the 4th number 1 seed. And we'll see how they perform out there. But obviously, first things first, they got to go to Raleigh and face Norfolk State and possibly UConn and Danny Hurley in the wings.
Yeah, we'll see how it all turns out. And then now Indiana in the midst of their coaching search, as is Iowa. And ironically, 2 of the names that have been bouncing around for Indiana are now also for Iowa. Ben McCollum at Drake, but from Iowa City, and Darren DeVries, who was at West Virginia, formerly at Drake. So I think it's going to work out great for Iowa. I think they end up getting one of those two guys. I don't know where Indiana goes. I don't know if one of those two guys are going to be Indiana's or Brad Brownell or Mick Cronin or someone that we're not thinking of. The only one that's available this minute is Darren DeVries. He's at an advantage of sorts because he could talk to Indiana and Iowa, and if one of them likes him or he likes them, he's like, boom, let's do this now before Ben McCollum becomes available.
Well, your show is broadcast in Evansville, and that's where Brad Brownell is from. What are your thoughts about, him at Clemson? He's got a little bit of a resume. Clemson's a hard place to win. He took them to Elite Eight last year. They beat Duke. He's an older coach, though. Does he excite the fan base? What are your thoughts? I know Rick Bozich has been reporting him as a pretty strong candidate.
Well, the at least on here, people are that he doesn't move the needle a lot, but I think part of that is because they just don't see him as a sexy pick. They look at how hard it's been to win in the ACC, but you don't think the ACC sucks right now. Granted, they're the worst conference in college basketball. That is not how it has been. I mean, they were the dominant conference for a long, long time. So when you have to recruit and play against Duke and North Carolina, when they're both at their premium, which he has done against Krzyzewski and Roy Williams, and the rest of the ACC that was tougher. Louisville, he was good. So
Virginia under Tony Bennett had a very good run.
Yes, a national champion. So it was the hardest conference to coach in. Now that it's eased up, his success level has shot up. So I do not have. If Scott Dolson thinks he's the selection, I'm going to trust Scott Dolson that he has done his due diligence and found the reason to make him the coach. I don't know who it's going to be. Everybody likes to keep throwing out rumors. I'm not doing that. That's crap. Chris Beard is not going to happen. People have talked about that. I've got someone who really bangs on me because I'm not pushing for him. I'm not pushing for anybody. That's not for my job to do. I'll report about it. I'll tell you about it. I'll give you my opinions about it. But that's it. Is Chris Beard would he be a good selection? Probably. I mean, from the outside, from the eye test. But what is it that I don't know? I don't know what I don't know. And neither do fans. And that's where they kind of lose the connection.
Well, it's fun to speculate about. But what are your thoughts about this tournament, Jim? And certainly people down here are very excited. They think
they should be.
They the way Florida performed over the weekend, Ken Pom right now, they're the number one offense in the country. And they certainly looked at Nashville over the weekend from watching them in terms of, their ability to push the floor, push the pace. Walter Clayton Jr. is playing terrific. Will Richard, they're 8 deep. They got a lot of options. But, I did a bracket breakdown. I think Texas Tech, Grant McCaslin, that's a very dangerous team in their region. And
that's another name that was big bounced around. I haven't heard it of much, but
yeah, Graham McCaslin is a heck of a coach. I remember 4 years ago in the bubble, believe it or not, it's crazy to think it's been that long, that tournament in Indy, but he was coaching North Texas at the time, and they beat Purdue in that tournament. I think it was a 13-4 game, back when Purdue both had Edey and Trevion Williams, and they were just a fine-tuned offensive team that was just too quick for Purdue at that time. And he's, obviously taking it to Texas Tech, and heck of a coach, Naismith top 10 finalist, along with obviously Todd Golden and Rick Pitino, the Godfather, who has St. John's as the Big East champions, and they're the 2 seed in the bracket. And that'd be another dangerous game for Florida because of they know Florida's Walter Clayton's weaknesses from coaching him at Iona.
Hey, Rick Pitino is the best coach in college basketball today. And if anyone doubts that, they just don't know what they're talking about. Dan
Hurley was the best coach. He said it. He told the official.
Well, that's his opinion. No, he said, I'm the best coach in college basketball. They did a thing on 60 Minutes. It was kind of funny.
Yeah, I watched it. Yeah.
I get it. He's got this personality, off the court, different guy. But boy, on the court, he's a freaking madman. He loses himself,
very tight,
which is cool. Very, very fun to watch.
Yeah.
I love this tournament. I think it's going to be awesome because there is no favorite. Auburn was looking like that, but Florida, I would put Florida over Auburn right now. If I had to pick a favorite, I would pick Florida right now. That's who I would pick. But any given game, bad matchup, a team can go down. But the SEC, Tennessee, Auburn, Florida, Alabama, I don't see them getting to the Elite Eight. They don't play defense at all. They're like Iowa on crack. But Florida put like 104 points on Alabama last time they played. So they're scoring 90 and giving up 100. That math does not work. But the Big Ten, there's not a lot there. Although Michigan played well in winning the Big Ten tournament. I like how their team is. I love Danny Wolf. That dude is he's an NBA first rounder. Maryland was my pick to win the Big Ten. They could have probably done that had they made one stinking defensive play. How the hell you let a guy go 94 feet unblocked? I don't know. But Wisconsin, boy, do not undercut Wisconsin and Michigan State. I like them because they lost in the Big Ten tournament. A lot of champions lose in their conference tournaments.
Yep.
Get a little more rest. Use that and go forward. Michigan State they don't have a superstar. And
7 of the last 10 national champions have lost their conference tournaments. That's an interesting stat right there. I used to think, and I do it all the time in my brackets, I always screw up. I always think the momentum from the conference tournaments is going to carry over. And inevitably, like last year, Auburn won the SEC tournament, boom, bounced by Yale in the first round.
I think it's a wear down.
Wisconsin's
Wisconsin's a great example, though. Yeah. They didn't win the Big Ten tournament, but the reason they lost it was maybe they were exhausted. They played 4 straight games. And I'm like, boy, I wonder if they wish they would have lost the day before just to get some rest in.
I do think if you're good enough, though, like UConn, last year they won their conference tournament and they rolled. And history for Florida, the last 2 times that they've won their SEC tournament, 2014 they got to the Final Four, 2007 they won it all. So I think if you're good enough, you're going to do it. And I think the fact that Florida's a 1 seed too, obviously helps because you get to 16 to start, so you get a little more cushion there in terms of rest going into that Sunday game.
Absolutely. Who is your pick for Final Four? I know you have Florida in it, but who else?
Yeah, no, I've got 3 SEC teams. I got Florida, Auburn, Tennessee.
Man, come on. Are you kidding me?
I'm telling you, Jim, it's the best conference in America. So
I don't doubt that. I agree. It is. Although,
and I do think like Rick Barnes, I think this is just one of those years where sometimes a coach and a program gets there so long they finally break through. And I think that bracket sets up. I'm not sold on Houston. I don't think Houston's all that. And they faltered in some tournaments lately. So I'm going to go with Tennessee and Duke. I've got Duke and Auburn, and I've got Duke winning it all. So,
oh, get out of here!
Yeah,
Duke is not.
Flag will be healthy by then, and Duke's got a lot of answers, and I think they're gonna do it. But it'll be a nice year for Florida. They'll get to the Final Four. If Florida slips up, it'll be either Texas Tech or St. John's that takes them out, I think.
Philip wants to know, okay, bro, did the SEC deserve 14 teams? And I stress that because I'm thinking they deserved 13 teams. Oklahoma had no.
You got to look at Oklahoma's non-conference.
I know, but they went 6 and 12 in the SEC, man.
They beat Michigan. They beat Louisville. They beat they've got about 3 or 4 really good ones. And Louisville, off the top of my head, it's Louisville. You want a team, I would say Texas more than Oklahoma if you wanted to take
what? And that's actually who went 6-12.
Yeah. I think they both did. I think both Texas and Oklahoma did. So I think of those two, Oklahoma's got a better non-conference resume. Jeremiah Fears, if you go by the eye test, he's one of the best young point guards in the country. I don't have a problem with Oklahoma. I would probably more have a problem with Texas. Texas lost at Georgia at home near the end of the year. So I would say 13, but you just have to look at the non-conference, records, and that's what you go on. And it was a historic year for the SEC in terms of just how they beat up the rest of the country non-conference. So, but you have to base it off that. And based off that, I would have to say the SEC's pretty darn deserving of what they have in the field. But I do think some teams are teetering. I wouldn't be surprised to see Kentucky lose early. They look like a mess. They probably shouldn't have beaten Oklahoma. I was at that game. They have no point guard play left. They're really banged up. Don't expect Kentucky to go anywhere in this tournament. I think they're highly overrated as a seed based on how they're playing now, compared to maybe where they were playing earlier in the season. And injuries have a lot to do with that with them. But I don't think that they're going to do much in the tournament. I don't think Arkansas is going to stick around. I think Kansas is going to beat them, and I think you will see some early exits. Some people will say that, the SEC was overrated, but I think a lot of that's going to be a byproduct of a lot of those teams. But I think the elite SEC teams, like I said, Tennessee, Auburn, Florida, are all going to play well. I agree with you on Alabama, though. Grant Nelson got hurt in that game against Florida where they put up 104. They say he might come back on Sunday. He could help with the defensive rebounding, but overall, they're not a good enough defensive team to make it, back to a Final Four this year, I think.
See, Hoosier fan 31 thinks that Brad Brownell from Clemson will have an extension coming soon. Well, if he doesn't get the Indiana job, he might. We'll have to see. Aaron says the Dolson needs to put that Michael Jackson song band on the big screen at Assembly Hall. The lyrics are perfect. I do not know that song, so we'll have to Philip asking, who is my first choice of the viable coach? I do not have a pick. I'm telling you. I think people are having a hard time believing. I don't care. It's not for me to decide, and I really don't care.
You don't care. It's Indiana basketball, though. It's what you grew up with. I know,
but I cover it, brother. I don't. Yeah, it's just. Would you, if Florida was hiring somebody, would you have who would your pick be, or would you approach it differently?
I think they've got a pretty good one with Todd Golden, but
no, they do. And the fact is how young he is. Where was he an assistant to?
Which is why I think McCollum would be a good play because of young. And again, Jim, I've said this how many times have I said this from my days back covering with Archie Miller and the beginning? Indiana's approach is just in the Stone Age. They don't shoot 3-pointers. It's not modern basketball. Not an up-tempo system. An entertaining system. You need that in today's college basketball.
And with Ben McCollum, you have to wonder. Like I said, he's from Iowa City. Iowa has an opening right now. You want a homecoming. Boom, that would work out for Iowa. Or they have their choice between McCollum and probably Darren DeVries. Darren DeVries does not look like a bad selection at all. He did well at Drake and left that a great position for Ben McCollum. Then he goes on to West Virginia. Should have made the tournament in his first year. He got screwed out of that, but had a good year. I think he would be good. I don't have a problem with Brad Brownell. People are all hung up that he didn't succeed during that high time of the ACC. Well, you know what? Neither did a lot of other people. Again, you all forget, you don't understand. Duke was it. And Nike was plying them with whatever they needed. The players, UNC was it. North Carolina State was even, Wake Forest. It was a very, very difficult conference to do anything in. And like you said, who the hell wants to go to Clemson, which is a football school? It's not, Yeah, it was not the same situation. I think McCollum would be. I think that Brad Brownell would be a fine choice as well. I don't have the negativity towards these guys that the fans do. Mick Cronin would be a good selection as a coach. Now, his personality, it looks a little prickly, which maybe that's fine. Maybe Indiana needs a little of that. They've had a little too much of the soft grandpa.
You think Woody was a soft grandpa?
Oh, absolutely soft grandpa. I mean,
Towards the players though, but he was
the teams had no discipline. It was a wreck.
Yeah. Well, listen. They brought home a guy, a former player. It's just hard for an NBA coach to come back to college and succeed. I mean, we've seen it over and over again. It's a different world. And it's got to be like the recruiting has to be 24/7, right? You need the energy to hop on private planes, to go to places,
but
have your face shown. And apparently
you have to realize it. You have to understand it and accept it. He didn't. He ignored it. He knew better. No matter what, he didn't learn. He never learned. And that's the aggravating thing. Yeah. Coming in your first year, like, okay, well, we got to change some things. No changes were ever made. He kept his freaking staff from Archie Miller. Then when it was,
and listen, poor. Other than Jalen Hood-Schifino, very poor evaluation of guards.
Speaking of Jalen Hood-Schifino, dude is killing it for Philadelphia.
Yeah,
didn't he have 30 points last night?
Yeah, no, he's a stud, and that was that one year when they had him and Trace Jackson Davis, where that was the height of the Woodson era. They got to the round of 32, and then they ran into a buzzsaw because Miami was playing pretty well and had a little more continuity on that team and a little more talent, and that was you were in beautiful Albany, New York, right, a couple of years ago, and but that was a problem.
Last time I saw John Feinstein in Albany.
I know, very, very sad. And but that's the thing, as fans, you're entitled to progress. Woodson did not build upon that. You had a round of 32. That's the time he had to strike. He had to, upload the talent level, get a couple of more Jalen Hood-Schifino type players.
And he did until he lost them.
He did not do that, either through misevaluation or not recruiting hard enough. They didn't take advantage of that window.
He lost Liam McNeely because of that. But he didn't get Derek Queen because I think that Derek Queen looked and saw that I'm not going to play there. Even though big men had succeeded very well at Indiana, that was a little surprising. But yes, if he gets Derek Queen and Liam McNeely, that's a huge difference, a gigantic difference. It makes all the difference in the world. Not being able to get them and then going out and just buying a hodgepodge mixed match of players. Yeah, that worked out great.
No question. It, Jim, it's just one of those things where, you just didn't have the continuity, the connection. And you got what you got this year, which was 19-13. And I guess they're not going to the postseason, right? They have no interest in playing in the NIT. So this is
well, no, they would have to play in the Crown if they played in anything. Which are you familiar with the Crown tournament?
Thomas Crown Affair or no? What's this?
No, it's so funny. It's a new tournament that is headed by Fox. It's an agreement between the Big Ten, the Big 12, and the Big East. And the top two teams of each of those conferences are supposed to play by commitment, which would have put Indiana in that, but they are not playing in any postseason tournaments whatsoever. And so I would assume Ohio State and maybe Nebraska, whoever's next, will play in that. It's a 16-team field in Las Vegas.
Oh, that's not bad, though. You get to go to Vegas and
it would have been okay.
The kids will get to do the pool parties during the their off time, and it'll be a grand old time. Spring break in Vegas wouldn't be better.
It wouldn't. Well, let me tell you. But here's the thing: do you know when this tournament starts? March 31st.
Wow.
The transfer portal opens a week from yesterday. What the hell? I don't understand starting a tournament 2 weeks after the NCAA tournament starts.
Yeah, it's nuts, Jim.
Yeah, it makes no sense, but I guess they know what they're doing. So, what are your thoughts on Ben McCollum?
Well, bright, young, innovative coach. I think
his style. His style has been the only negative of sorts.
Yeah. Well, what don't you like about his style?
Well, it's a very, very slow, methodical, Bo Ryan type of play. 55 to 54. Virginia. That I think does he run the pack line as well? I hope not. But it's just very methodical, but successful. And, winning matters, but maybe that would change a little bit if he was at Indiana and able to get a higher caliber of elite players that would allow them to add other things. Maybe that would make it more formidable.
I think there are a lot of different ways you can win. But I do think that, Bob Knight came in right as a defensive coach in the 70s. And before, right, weren't they talking about, under Branch McCracken, it was the Hurrying Hoosiers, and people kind of scoffed at this defensive coach coming in here and look at what Knight did. But Knight also had the motion offense. And I think in an ideal world, you want balance, and you want a coach that can win games in different ways. I think that's the main thing. But yeah, entertaining and modern. I've mentioned that before. I'd like to see almost like a Crean type coach does, someone that's going to get up and down the floor a little bit. A style that athletes want to play. I think, and Dusty would have been really good in that regard, and it's just a shame that, the timing didn't work out.
Well, the timing didn't work out because Indiana doesn't have the onions to do what they should have done a year ago. And I will never come off of that. They should have made the move because there is too much other crap that it goes into the thinking, not just the wins and the losses. It's a lot of other stuff that Woodson.
I think it was hard though, because Woodson had built up equity and you felt like you needed to give him one more year because of the 2 NCAA tournament appearances. You couldn't fire him off one bad year. But yeah, that was the foresight in that was lacking. And it's like I said, it's going to be one of those, decisions that you look back on in time and that they'll regret. But at the time, could you have fired Mike Woodson last year? I don't know. I know there were some fans for it.
Yes.
All right.
Hell yes. If you want to say, you know what, we appreciate, respect it, but Indiana needs to get back to being Indiana as soon as possible, and we just don't think the program is heading in the right direction. Dusty May was available. Let me tell you, when Indiana fans watched Michigan cut down the nets Sunday in Indianapolis, that would have been Indiana. Dusty May brought 10 of the 13 players in to that Michigan team, including Vladislav Golden, including Danny Wolf, including all of those stars. He brought them there. They would have come to Indiana, and that would have been Indiana winning its first stinking Big Ten tournament ever. So they had a chance to be right where they wanted to be, missed the boat. And see right here, he says, I'm Brownell's PR guy. I don't have a pick, but all of a sudden I'm on the Brownell train. Not true, but so. What if
is there another DeVries and McCollum? Is there a Pat Kelsey type out there, you think? Because that Louisville,
well, that's a great question, but I don't know, because I didn't think of Pat Kelsey last year. I never freaking heard of Pat Kelsey.
Yeah.
And I'm glad you brought that up, because I was started thinking, I'm like, has anybody thought about Pat Kelsey? He grew up an Indiana fan. When they played Indiana in the Bahamas, he talked about growing up watching IU, being an IU fan, being a Steve Alford fan and watching with his dad. And it's hard to get a first-year guy out of their school, i.e. Dusty May, Darren DeVries, Pat Kelsey, because they just got there. And they probably have some loyalty to those places who took a chance on them.
Yeah.
You don't want to burn bridges, but Pat Kelsey would be a good get.
Yeah, no question. I mean, it'd be very hard though, but I'm just saying a Pat Kelsey type, but DeVries is interesting, obviously. And, you've got some people out there and it's going to, it's going to take a lot of work, but they got to get this right.
Oh, there's no question. And the thing is, I said this earlier, that I'm pretty confident that Scott Dolson is more than aware of the gravity of this hire. He knows. If anybody knows, he knows. He knows what it means to the program, to the fan base, but to getting Indiana back to being Indiana. NIL and the transfer portal were built for Indiana to get back to doing that. It hands it to you. It's a roadmap. And they have still stumbled their way through it. I think that they get it right this time, and it's going to be a lot better for Indiana fans next season, and that will be following another fun Kurt Cignetti football season, baby.
That'll be interesting, right? Mendoza is your new quarterback. It's
Fernando Mendoza.
It's going to be how's spring football going over there?
You know what? I can't get out to practice because of.
Are they doing a spring game or no?
Yes, it is on Thursday. Is it the 20th?
Yeah,
I can't remember. I think it might be coming up this Thursday.
This interesting trend around college football: people not doing spring games anymore.
Yeah, losing players to the portal
because of worried about being, players getting poached and an injury, and also, wearing down and stuff. And I remember back in 2019 when Tom Allen had a spring game at Memorial Stadium, and how many people were there? Maybe 200 or.
Yeah, and moving it to a Thursday is not going to help that. I'll tell you, because that's going to limit it mostly to local fans. But it was Easter weekend. When is Easter?
Yeah.
When is Easter?
Easter, I think it's the 27th or the 28th or so. It's later this year, the 20th.
Okay, then it's the Thursday, the 27th is the game. That's why they moved it up to Thursday, because it was Easter week.
I think sometimes when you do it on a different day, it helps with recruits too, because a lot of people have Saturday games, and that way you can kind of have your own game, and in terms of having your own showcase and so forth and everything like that. But yeah, a lot of schools getting away from the spring game. Florida's doing theirs. I think it's on April 12th. And, the big news here is people are a little nervous about DJ Lagway because he's not throwing. He's got some kind of shoulder issue that they're being hush-hush about. So that's going to be – I'm going to have to monitor that once the season ends. But crazy basketball, I go up to Raleigh on Wednesday. I'm sure you've been in that Tri-City area, Jim. Any suggestions?
Oh, yeah. No, I do not remember any place that I ate there. I was at is Raleigh next by Winston-Salem? I can't keep all those towns.
Raleigh, Chapel Hill, Durham, yeah.
Well, it's Durham, Chapel Hill, I know are together, but
yeah, Raleigh.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Too many cities close by, man. I'm more familiar with the Charlotte area. My family lives down there, so. But you're flying in, of course, I assume.
Yes,
Mr. High Roller, private jet like usual.
No,
the K-Bro Express.
Southwest.
The K-Bro Express.
I'll tell you what. I think that we had like 30-mile crosswinds landing in Jacksonville from Nashville. I thought you were gonna have to write my obit or something like that. The way it was going, it was a little scary, but we got in.
Well, I could have explained what happened in the crash because I watch air disasters like every day. I know everything. Last night I was watching one and they were having a situation and I'm like going, thrust, full thrust, push forward. I'm sitting there screaming at this pilot. He's not doing what he's supposed. I'm like, even I know this. Got into a stall. But man, I'm glad. I hate to say this. I'm glad that Indiana didn't make it because it just gives time for a reset. And Indiana, I think, needed a reset. I think it's just clean break now. And I think even though it sucked.
And I said, Don Fisher brought up a good point, and I wondered if that factored into it, like the whole lame duck status, the fact that
he said that on the show. Yeah.
The selection committee looked at that and how awkward that would be to have. But it could have been a great story too if Indiana made a run, obviously. But it was, one of those things that I wonder if in the back of their mind they're like, what, are they really going to be, motivated? Or are they going to be checked out? But I mean, they hadn't won 5 of the last 7. I thought they were probably playing hard for Woody at the end. Maybe they could have done something.
Yeah, it just did not have the team put together. But when do you head out for the tournament?
I head out Wednesday night. And Florida plays Norfolk State Friday at 6:50 on TNT. And then we'll face the winner of the game between Oklahoma and UConn on Sunday.
Oh, that would be fun to watch, huh? UConn gets there.
Florida UConn would be interesting, like I said, just because of the Dan and your buddy Liam McNeely, who's starting to play really well for the Huskies. Former Montverde standout. Did you see Kevin Boyle is leaving Montverde?
Yes, heading to Spire Academy up near Cleveland. I couldn't believe that. Was shocked.
Yes, very interesting.
Speaking of which, he'll be here in Indianapolis, as will Trent Sisley and the rest of his Montverde teammates competing in the Chipotle Nationals for the national finals in early April. So we'll be covering that. But I look forward to talking to him. But congratulations to him. He says that Kelsey's buyout is only $1.1 million. That would be a little surprising. If that was the case, I'd make a run at him.
Yeah, you have to kick all the tires in this situation, Jim, for sure. And
but wouldn't you think that the tires have been kicked when he was plucked out of the College of Charlestown and goes to Louisville, builds the entire roster, and finishes how they finished?
Yeah. It's amazing what you can do now with transfer portal. I mean, you take a look at what Dusty did at Michigan too, how you can, go out and just basically rebuild your team from scratch. And, Todd Golden has done that in 3 years. He's really built this roster now to the point where it's a national title contender. But you do it through the portal, but I do believe, I think in Todd Golden's situation, 3 years, he's got a lot of portal 2-3-year guys. I still think basketball is a continuity game that way. And if you can keep a core together for 2 or 3 years, it makes it that much more valuable, especially if they're talented and they play well together. Basketball is a continuity game that way too. I mean, I'm on the, sitting on the floor in Nashville and seeing how the ball is whipping and seeing how basically everyone knows where everyone is on the floor. And that takes time to develop too. So I think that while it'd be easy to say, get a quick fix and so forth and everything like that, it's good to have that nucleus as well.
Well, it's good to have you, brother, on any time that we can. And, look forward to doing it again as this tournament rolls along, and hopefully Florida keeps going so we can keep talking about some NCAA tournament stuff.
All right. Thank you, Jim.
Thank you, my friend. You are the best. K-Bro joining us here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio from the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios. Hello, sports fans. Jim Coyle with Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Thank you for stopping by our YouTube channel. Make sure to hit the subscribe and notifications toggle so you never miss a thing. All of our content up here every day. Looking forward to it. Thank you, and we'll see you on the radio.